Hello, sir.
Hello. Hi. Okay. We had started chapter 7.
Yeah, started. Finished the
Okay.
orbitals.
So, delocalization and conjugation. Which section had we reached? Till where?
I think last class we did the problems, like
Okay.
problems for the chapters.
Before.
Yeah, and then we
Yeah.
started the chapter 7 as well.
Okay. So, if we have not
We have to
started, then
start with conjugation of two parts.
okay. Okay. So, we'll just discuss this. Delocalization and conjugation. The idea is that electrons are not going to be at the double bond itself. What can happen is they will spread out over the whole molecule. Okay.
Yeah.
So if there are multiple double bonds in a molecule, electrons will spread out over the whole molecule, and that will lead to a lot of stabilization. So delocalization leads to stabilization because now the charge or the electrons are shared by multiple molecules. The molecular orbital is a bonding molecular orbital that is more stable. So we'll go through this in a little more detail. Let's start with the page number 143, molecules with more than one C double bond. Okay, molecules with more than one C double bond C. So, for example, benzene, right? Benzene has C6H6 is the formula, and it has a ring, and according to the normal structure that you would draw, it has three alternating bonds, double bonds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, each of the places there is a hydrogen, 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 and so on. 6 hydrogens are there, right?
Yeah.
Now, this structure, however, is not accurate because people have measured the lengths of these bonds, okay? And from the structure, it appears as if there should be an alternating double bond and a single bond, right? So single bonds are longer and double bonds are shorter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you should have seen different lengths of bonds,
Bonds.
but what you actually see is a common bond length
Mm-hmm.
in the actual molecule. Okay, so if you are seeing a common bond length, then somehow it appears that the molecule seems to have equivalent bonds. All the bonds are equivalent, right?
Yeah.
So what is actually happening is there are two possible structures here. You could have drawn a double bond like this also, right?
Yeah.
There are two possible structures here, and the real structure is somewhat in between these two, right? The real structure is the pi electrons in the double bond are shared across the overall molecule. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so this thing used to be called resonance, and people used to say that there is two resonating structures, but that is a little old fashioned, and in the sense that actually it's not like electrons are moving. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not like electrons are jumping from here, double bond electrons from here are going here, and then here are going here. It's not actually happening like that. Actually what is happening is all of these carbons have p orbitals, right? All of
Yeah.
these carbons have p orbitals
Yeah.
because every carbon is sp2 hybridized. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and all of the p orbital electrons are forming a 6 p orbitals are combining to form 6 molecular orbitals. Okay, 6 p atomic orbitals, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Each carbon will have one p orbital which has an electron, right?
Yeah.
Correct, because then only the p orbitals will form pi bonds, no, here.
Correct. Yeah.
That will
Yeah.
be the
Yeah.
double bond, right?
Yeah.
The other hybrid orbitals are the sp2 hybrid orbitals which form sigma bonds,
Sigma.
and there are 3 sigma bonds, right, for each carbon.
Yeah.
See,
Mm.
3.
3 sigma bonds and 1 pi bond, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pi bond is due to the p orbitals,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So each p orbital has one electron, so there are total 6 electrons in the p orbitals, 6 p orbitals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now what happens is 6 p orbitals combine to form 6 molecular orbitals. Okay,
Yeah.
6 molecular orbitals. That is the LCAO method. You cannot have different numbers of atomic orbitals and molecular orbitals, right? And once 6 molecular orbitals are formed, obviously they will have been formed by different types of like phases, right? The interference will be dependent on how the lobes are there, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be positive constructive interference or destructive interference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you turn over to page number 1 second, page number, it's towards the end of the chapter actually. Page number 159, right? 159.
Yeah.
What will happen, what you will see there is that he is drawing a look at the figure. Okay, look at that figure in the center of the page, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he's drawing 6 different structures. Okay, so at the bottom there is a structure where he has drawn darkened lobes on top for each, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that means phases are all in sync at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he has written or and drawn 2 structures, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so forget about the or part for a moment. That is just a different visual way of looking at it. Just look at the darkened red dark ones and the light ones, right? That lobe.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there is one structure like this that is called everyone has combined in phase. So this is the most bonding orbital possible, right?
Yeah.
All p orbitals are in phase here. Okay,
Right.
so
Yeah.
this is the most strongly bonding molecular orbital, right?
Yeah.
Then there are some situations where you have one node, like this is, look at the above that psi1, above psi1 there are 2 alternative versions of psi2. Okay, 2
Mhm.
alternative versions of psi2. In
Yeah.
psi2 you have one node in the molecule. Okay, here there was no node. Okay, the bottom psi1.
Yeah.
In psi1 there is no node because it's constructive interference throughout, right?
Yeah.
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 Now if 2 of them do a destructive interference, it will form one node, right?
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
So one version could be where you have one node passing through the molecule. Obviously, there are 2 possible orientations. One is through the center. Now look at the other version of the figure, right? One is through the middle of the molecule in a vertical line, and one is a horizontal line, right?
Horizontal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
These are one nodal planes. Okay.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
these are 2 alternate molecular orbitals which both have one nodal plane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One nodal plane, and the other 4 are in constructive interference with each other, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
these are the 2 psi2s. Then above that are 2 anti-bonding orbitals with 2 nodal planes, right? So see, in the top one there are 2 cross lines that are passing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Psi3 there are 2 alternative orientations in which one is a perpendicular plus sign type of a thing and another is a cross sign type of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah.
2 nodal planes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and finally, there is one where there are so many nodal planes, 3 nodal planes. See, everything is alternate here.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. There are 3 nodal planes. Every lobe is alternate to each other, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that is the situation. So he has drawn 6 psi atomic molecular orbitals, and because there are 6 electrons, only the bottom 3 will be occupied, right?
Yeah.
Each orbital can accommodate 2 electrons. So bottom 3 will be occupied, and that suggests that the final electron density will be due to the combination of electron densities which are there in psi1 and the 2 psi2s, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Correct. So
Yeah.
psi1 indicates that electrons are present all over the molecule, and psi2 also indicates the same. Except in psi2 there are 2 nodal planes, but overall there will be electron density on all atoms, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So this delocalization is happening. Like this is the benzene is the ultimate example for delocalization. But before that, we'll also look at some other simpler examples like butadiene and so on. Okay.
Okay.
So butadiene, allyl anion, and allyl cation, and so on. We'll see multiple examples, and what we'll understand is as soon as this phenomena happens where p orbitals combine to form a molecular orbital system, then electron density starts becoming shared over the overall molecule, right? It's not going to
Yes,
be
yeah.
localized over one atom, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay, so let's go to page number 146. Okay, there the butadiene structure will be shown. Page 146. So we are going to look at how butadiene is an example for conjugation of two pi bonds. Two pi bonds conjugate, right? So the normal structure for butadiene would be the formula is CH2 CH2 CH CH CH2, right? CH2 CH, then there is CH CH2, correct? So
Hmm.
what is happening here is there is a double bond at the end, double bond
Yeah.
at the end, and then there is a single bond, and then there is another double bond. Okay, so do you understand? Everyone has four bonds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So what happens in this particular molecule, whenever you have a system where there are a pair of double bonds, a pair of double bonds separated by one single bond, right?
Yeah.
Separated by one single bond, that is a situation where by a single bond, that is a situation where you will find that conjugation starts to happen. Okay, and we
Yeah.
will see why. Because if you have double bond separated by a single bond, that means every carbon is sp2 hybridized. Okay, if there
Yeah.
are two single bonds, no, then in between there will be some sp3 stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Suppose this is like this, right? Then look at this carbon.
Yeah. sp3. Yeah.
This carbon has become sp3, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The reason this doesn't work as a conjugated system is because as soon as you have sp3, you will have a tetrahedral structure here, right?
Yeah. Right.
And tetrahedral structure will make it a 3D type of a figure where the p orbitals that are here, right, will
Right.
not have the same orientation as the p orbitals that are here, right? Correct. Because now the structure is twisted in space because of this middle carbon, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. Here, however, what is happening is this molecule is planar. This molecule is in the same plane. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it is sp2, right? sp2 structure is trigonal planar, right?
Yeah.
So this molecule is planar. As long as you have a planar system, then conjugation will be possible because now the p orbitals will have effective overlap, right?
Yeah.
Here
Yeah.
they will, because of the central sp3 carbon, it will be all weird in space, right?
Yeah.
Then overlap will not be effective. So no conjugation will happen here. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Are you guys understanding?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So then we will look at now butadiene in more detail. So he's saying butadiene has two pi bonds, each made up of two p orbitals, right? A total of 4 atomic orbitals, right? Correct. So
Yeah.
this double bond, two pi bonds, this double bond, two pi bonds, right? I mean, one pi bond, but two p orbitals, right?
Right. Right.
It is one pi bond, not two pi bonds. It is two p orbitals, right? Two p orbitals here, two p orbitals here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we would therefore expect 4 molecular orbitals housing 4 electrons, right? Correct.
Right.
Because each of them has one electron which made a bond, right?
Yeah.
So 4 electrons are there in these 4 orbitals. Now, these orbitals, these molecular orbitals that can form will extend over the whole molecule, but He's saying we can easily work out what these molecular orbitals look like simply by taking the orbitals of the two alkenes and interacting them side by side. So we have two pi orbitals and two pi star orbitals, and we can interact them in phase or out of phase, right? So,
Yeah.
so what he is doing is he's interacting them in phase first. So if you have two orbitals like this, and this is the marked ones, and suppose they interact with another two which are also in the same orientation, right?
Yeah.
Then you get this completely constructive sort of interference molecular orbitals, right? This is the bonding MO, where all of them are in phase. All of them are in phase, correct? And this is the lowest energy pi molecular orbital. Lowest energy pi molecular orbital, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you wanted one node, you could have flipped one of them, right?
Right. Yeah.
You could have flipped one of them. But if you flip one of them, actually there are two nodes suddenly, right?
Two of them.
Two nodes are coming, no? Correct.
Yeah.
So
You could
let's flip
two
one of them and keep the others as it is. Then suddenly there are two nodes, right?
Yeah.
And you could have flipped the other one also. You could have flipped this one also. And then also there are two nodes, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So what he's doing here is
like the two on the ends.
he's flipping. Okay. What he's doing is right now he has taken the pi orbitals combining, and then he will take pi star combine.
Yeah.
So pi star would have been already flipped here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this pi star would combine like this. If it combines like this, at least these two are in phase, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are two nodes in
Two
between,
nodes,
right?
yeah.
Correct? Or it could have combined in the opposite sense here also, right? Like if this was, so I will just draw it.
Yeah, that'll be three nodes.
So if this was like this and this was like this, right?
Yeah.
That will be one node, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So what is the other case? The other case was
Notice like
if
the two pi combined, but
the two pi when they are combining, but this could have been opposite pi, right?
Yeah.
You understand? It could also have been like this, and like this, and like this, right?
Yeah.
And that gives one node, right?
Yeah.
So this is the one node case. This is zero node case. This is two node case. And this is three node case, right?
Yeah.
So that gives you all the possible variations of the pi orbitals, pi bonding molecular orbitals, and the pi star molecular orbitals combining to give different orbitals of different energies, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this is the lowest energy possible, this one. And this one has one node, so second lowest in energy. Why second lowest in energy? Because two bonding interactions and one anti-bonding interactions, right?
Yeah.
So two bonding interactions minus one anti-bonding becomes plus one bonding at least, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here there are three bonding plus three bonding. Here there is one bonding but two anti-bonding, right? So it's minus one bonding. And here there are minus three, right?
Yeah.
However, since there are four atomic molecular orbitals and four electrons only the bottom two are occupied. Right? Bottom two in energy will be occupied. The others will not be occupied, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So that suggests that the actual structure of or actual electron density in butadiene will depend on these two, mixture of these two atomic molecular orbitals, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
If you look at the figure on page 147, right, there are some subtle things that are there. Okay, so first the number of nodes and all we saw, right?
Yeah.
Then he's saying,
Yeah.
secondly, notice in the last paragraph, secondly, notice that the p orbitals making the pi system are not all shown in the same size, right?
Right.
P
Yeah.
orbitals that are
Yeah.
making the pi system, some of them are drawn bigger, some of them are smaller, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their coefficients vary according to the orbital they are in. Now, this is a mathematical consequence of the way the orbitals sum together, and you need not be concerned with the details. So what is he saying here? Like, what he's saying actually, that like you don't want to be worried about the details here, because this is a consequence of the Schrodinger equation solution, right? Like when you form the Schrodinger equation for the overall molecule, there will be some solutions that will appear. The solutions are called the molecular orbitals.
Right.
However,
Yeah.
that's a differential equation that you solve and you get some answer, right? Now,
Yeah.
if in that answer some of the orbitals have different coefficients, then some of them will be larger, some of them will be smaller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we don't want to solve the Schrodinger equation all the time. I mean, anytime actually.
Right. Yeah.
So when you're doing chemistry, you're ignoring the actual mathematical details. There is no way to explain it in a very chemical manner, right? Actually, this is maths and this is physics, right? So
Yeah.
he is just making a assumption by he's hiding away all the details of how that orbital became smaller or this one became bigger, right?
Yeah.
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 You only want to be concerned about, okay, I need to remember just as the general principle that psi1 and psi4 have the largest coefficients in the middle. Psi1 and psi4 look at the big orbitals and in the middle in first and fourth one, right?
Right.
And psi2 and psi3 have the largest coefficients at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The big orbitals are at the end in psi2 and psi3. So this is just a fact now that you will have to remember, but I mean, not remember because I don't think this will be asked, but yeah. You will not be able to understand it without actually solving the equation, right?
Yeah.
So that will not be able to figure out why. Then he's saying a closer look at the filled orbital shows that in psi1, the lowest energy bonding orbital, the electrons are spread out over all 4 carbon atoms above and below the plane in one continuous orbital. Okay. There is bonding between all 4 carbon atoms. Therefore, 3 net bonding interactions. Okay, so this one we already discussed, right?
Yeah.
This paragraph
Yeah,
where we are talking
yeah.
about the bonding interactions and anti-bonding. Now, overall, in both the occupied pi orbitals, there are electrons between carbon 1 and 2 and between 3 and 4, right? In both of the occupied orbitals, in the occupied orbital, this one, there is not even a single node. So there is electrons everywhere here. And in this one, electrons in these 2 carbons and in these 2 carbons between these 2, right?
Yeah.
There is a
Yeah.
slight node
Yeah.
here, so no electrons here. But the overall mixture will be due to this plus this, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
overall
Yeah.
electron density will be because of these 2 molecular orbitals combining, right? So now what he's saying is, but the anti-bonding interaction. Okay, hold on for a second. But so the anti-bonding interaction he's saying between carbon 2 and 3 in psi2 partially cancels out the bonding interaction in psi1, right? So notice that there is a node here, but there is no node here, right? So there is some bonding interaction here, but there is some anti-bonding interaction here, right? So a little bit will be cancelled, right? Depends on which one is smaller, which one is larger, right?
Right.
Now see, psi1 has bigger lobes in the middle 2 carbons, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And psi2 has smaller lobes in the middle 2 carbons, right?
Yeah.
So when it gets cancelled, it will not be fully cancelled, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they were equal, then it would have been fully cancelled, and then there would not have been electron density. There would have been very less electron density here, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it is not fully cancelled though, so there is still some electron density between these two, right? Because this is more powerful than this,
Mhm. Yeah.
correct? So only partially, because the coefficients of the anti-bonding pair of orbitals in psi2 are smaller than the coefficients of the bonding pair in psi1, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Right.
explains why all the bonds in butadiene are not the same. This explains why all the bonds in butadiene are not the same, and also why the middle bond is like a single bond but with a little bit of double bond character. Now, so you understand, in when the structure we were drawing, we had a double bond here, single bond, then double bond, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the basic structure, but all the bonds are not the same now, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the middle bond has a little bit of p orbital overlap, no?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
this
Yeah.
coefficient is more powerful than this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has a little bit of double bond character, and this is little less than the everything is shared, and this has a little more double bond character, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So actually, you cannot write, this is not accurate structure, this one. Okay. So the real structure has a little bit of double bond character here also. So it is actually p orbitals are overall delocalized over the whole molecule, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, the molecular orbital diagram also helps us explain some aspects of the reactivity of butadiene. Okay. So in the figure in the previous page, he has marked the HOMO and the LUMO for us, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
highest occupied molecular orbital is the psi2 one, and the lowest unoccupied molecular orbital is the psi1, the psi3 one,
Side
right?
3. Yeah.
Correct. So now notice that the overall energy of the two bonding butadiene molecular orbitals is lower than of the two molecular orbitals for ethene. So ethene molecular orbitals would have been having energy somewhere in the middle, and this bonding is lowering that energy. No, it is overall, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So this means that the conjugated butadiene is more thermodynamically stable than the isolated double bonds, the two double bonds normally. If it was just a single double bond here and a double bond here, right? Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
So the energy of the double bond, if there was no conjugation, would have been somewhere due to the atomic orbitals here combining, no, these
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
orbitals, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it would have been at some level here. But after the mixture of the atomic orbitals, the p orbitals, and forming these molecular orbitals, right? You have two below and two above, right? You
Right.
had
Mhm.
four p orbitals combining, no?
Yeah.
So you had two below, which were the bonding ones, psi1 and psi2, and you had two above, which was psi3 and psi4, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So clearly, since electrons are only in these two, then energy has been lowered, no?
Mhm.
Right.
Energy
Mhm.
has been lowered from no conjugation, right? That situation,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it is more stable, thermodynamically more stable, right? Now, uh, now see, he's saying the HOMO of butadiene is unoccupied molecular orbital, which is this one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Highest unoccupied molecular orbital is higher in energy than the HOMO for ethene. So if this orbital is higher in energy than this highest unoccupied molecular orbital here, right? So then what happens is that makes butadiene more reactive. Butadiene more reactive towards electrophiles. More reactive towards electrophiles. Why? Electrophiles need electron density, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Electrophiles will need electron density. So they are slightly positively charged type of species, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So uh, 1 second. If the HOMO is higher, does it make it more nucleophilic? or more susceptible to electrophile. Why is he saying that? So I've forgotten the previous part where earlier when we were doing electrophilic addition and all, we were talking about this homo-lumo stuff, no? Where the energy gap between the homo and the lumo should be small, right? Something like that, no?
Yeah.
So highest unoccupied. 1 second. Somewhere it was, I remember. One second. I'm trying to find the place where he talks about this. Okay. This is a previous thing that we are supposed to know. Okay. Okay, I'll find the reason. So it is right now I cannot remember it and I'm unable to find it immediately. Just go back to the previous chapter, no, when you are doing electrophile nucleophile. There is a place where he talks about. Okay, so he's saying. Okay. Electrons move from the HOMO of highest of the nucleophile into the LUMO of the electrophile. Okay. So highest. Okay. Occupied. HOMO is the lower one. No, obviously. It is occupied, dude. Why am I doing this? HOMO is this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And LUMO is this. Oh, now it makes sense. Right? So electrons will move from this to the electrophile, no?
Right. Yeah,
Correct?
yeah.
And now he is saying here, what is he saying? The HOMO is higher. Okay, now it makes sense, perfect sense. HOMO is higher for this than it would have been just an ethene, just a single double bond, where you would have been lower.
Yeah.
Occupied orbital would have been lower,
Lower,
and
yeah.
this is slightly higher occupied orbital here.
Right.
So for the electrophile, you are going to have a HOMO-LUMO interaction, right? Electrophile will have a LUMO, right?
Yeah.
Unoccupied
Yeah.
molecular orbital which will interact. So LUMOs are generally unoccupied, so they are higher in energy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if your HOMO is slightly above, right, in energy, then what will happen is better interaction between this.
Yeah, yeah.
So butadiene's HOMO or occupied molecular orbital, the highest one, is higher in energy than a simple double bond, right?
Yes.
In a simple double bond, it will be just 2 electrons, no? So it will be down, right?
Right, yeah.
More down. Because of this conjugation, what is happening is there are 2 orbitals. So the higher one is this one, which is higher than the ethene double bond simple one, right?
Right.
So therefore, it is better overlap between HOMO and LUMO of any electrophile.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So therefore, even though butadiene is more stable, it is also more reactive, which seems very counterintuitive. It is more reactive towards electrophiles, and it also is more reactive towards nucleophiles, because again, same thing happens when it reacts with nucleophiles. A LUMO from this has to interact with the HOMO of the nucleophile, right?
Yeah.
And the LUMO is lower, right? LUMO is lower, so the HOMO of the nucleophile and the LUMO have lesser gaps, so better overlap.
Yeah.
You understand? You have to go back to the previous chapter and nucleophilic addition and see how the addition of electrophile, nucleophile and all happens, right? Once you once you look at that in terms of the molecular orbitals, HOMOs and LUMOs, then you will understand why butadiene, even though it's more stable, is better and more reactive towards both electrophiles as well as nucleophiles.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So, sir,
uh,
the LUMO of butadiene will have a lower energy than the
LUMO of a
HOMO.
regular double bond. Regular
Okay.
double bond is like this: one p electron, two p orbitals are coming and making this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now here, this is the HOMO and this is the LUMO, right?
Yeah. Right.
But here, because there are multiple orbitals that are conjugating, these are the two occupied orbitals and these are the two unoccupied ones, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So this level is higher than this base level and
Right.
this is lower than this height.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the overall conjugation, you have HOMO and LUMO are both closer to the baseline than the normal ethene difference.
Right. Yeah.
So therefore, it becomes more stable because both of them are below ethene. Like this energy stabilization is more, but also the fact that they are closer to this base level energy, right? So
Yeah.
that makes orbital overlap with nucleophiles and electrophiles easier. So this is anyway, he will talk about it again. He's saying this superficially surprising result is revisited in detail in chapter 19. So later we'll discuss this again, so don't need to worry about it too much. Now what he will do here is discuss some 3p orbital interactions type of situations, right? So basically 3 carbon conjugations.
Yeah.
For example, he will talk about the allyl cation and the allyl anion. So basically, the situation, the allyl anion is, for example, he has drawn H, C double bond, C, H, and this is a C and this is an H and an H, and a H plus has been lost, right? So this is left with a negative charge. Normally, this compound would have had a CH here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
normally there was a CH here, but a strong base was added, which takes away H plus, right?
Yeah.
Which takes away H plus, but the electrons are left behind. So it becomes, this is gone, and it becomes simply this anion here, right?
Yeah.
This anion is formed, and anion is formed means this p orbital is occupied. There is a p orbital here, which is occupied. Okay. So what is happening is there are two p orbitals on this, and one p orbital here, right?
Yeah.
So now these three p orbitals will combine to form your bonding MOs. So if you look at page 151, right? So you have 3 carbon atoms with p orbitals.
Yeah.
3 carbon atoms with p orbitals. They can obviously combine completely in phase.
Yeah.
They can also combine such that there is a node on the central carbon. Okay. And node on the central carbon, as in you have a non-bonding interaction. There is no bond here, and central carbon is a complete node, and this third carbon has a opposite type of orientation. This is like this and this is like this. This is one node situation, and you could also have two nodes if you have everyone is alternate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone is alternate, and these are two node situations. So these three possible structures are there, and since there are 2 electrons here and 2 electrons here, right? 4 pi electrons are there, 4 p electrons are there, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you will fill up the bottom 2 molecular orbitals, right? So you will have this one will be fully filled and this one will be fully filled, right? Correct.
Yeah.
The one node one will be fully filled and this one will be fully filled. Now what is he saying? notice too that the energy of two of the electrons is lower than it would have been had they remained in unconjugated p orbitals, right? So the bottom two electrons definitely are lower in energy, right?
Yeah.
This is a non-bonding orbital, so this is at the same energy as the atomic orbitals. Non-bonding, there is a difference between bonding, anti-bonding, and non-bonding. Okay, so here there is no bond formed, there is a node formed, nothing, there's no bonding interaction here, right? So this is zero bonding interactions, so this is called non-bonding. This is +3 bonding interactions, right? And this is -3 anti-bonding, right? Correct.
Yeah.
So look at the energy diagram that he has drawn here. He has written 3 cross 2p, so 3 2p orbitals are combining, right? And notice that the bonding interaction is below in energy, right? And the non-bonding has been drawn to be at the same energy, correct? Non-bonding
Sir,
one.
how do you differentiate between the non-bonding and anti-bonding? Because
Non-bonding and anti-bonding, it's easy to differentiate because anti-bonding is destructive interference, and here there is no interference.
okay.
There is no interference. This is destructive, so it's actually like higher in energy, right? These are there is no interaction here. See, the reason it is happening is because generally every time you combine, you will have all possible situations. So 0 node situation, 1 node situation, 3 node 2 node situation. So how will I draw a 1 node situation here, right? If I reverse it like this, right? And then it is possible that 1 node could have been here or 1 node could have been here also, no? So the net effect of those two degenerate structures would be a node here. So 1 node is better to be formed here because you could have not differentiated between these two, no? If you just make 1 node, right? So it cancels off and becomes a non-bonding, right? And non-bonding is drawn at the same energy level as the 2p orbitals, if you see, right? Because there is 0 bonding interaction, there's no benefit to this one, right? And this one is at a higher energy anti-bonding, right? So finally, the two that are occupied are the bonding one and the non-bonding one, right? Okay. So now what is he saying? What is he asking? Where is the electron density in this allyl anion pi system, right? So we have 2 filled pi molecular orbitals. So 2 orbitals are filled, one bonding one, one non-bonding one, right? So this means that the electron density will come as a sum of both of these orbitals, right? The sum of both of these orbitals. So because of the lower one, there is significant electron density on all of the 3 carbon atoms, right? However, the coefficient of the end carbons are of a significant size in both orbitals, right? Both in psi2, but in psi2, middle carbon has no electron density, right? Correct. So just see, basically the middle carbon has 0 electron density there, but electron density in the lower one, right? So therefore there has to be electron density on the middle carbon in the final molecule, right? And also there has to be electron density on the 2 ends also, because it seems like both of them have electron density, right? Correct. So it looks like electron density will be overall in the whole molecule, but the middle carbon will have slightly less than the norm, than the 2 ends, right? Because there is one of them, there is a node, right? Basically, middle carbon has the least electron density and the ends have higher electron density. Correct. So now he has drawn 2 alternative looking structures in below, and see, the normal structures that you would have drawn would have looked like C double bond C and then C negative, right? And you could have drawn an alternative structure which would have been C negative here and double bond has come here, right? Correct. So both of these, right? Both of these are wrong, actually, right? Both of
Yeah,
these are
both of
wrong,
them are wrong.
but this is closer to the reality in the sense that at least the negative is on the ends, right?
Yeah.
Because we know that electron density is more on the end carbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
By the molecular orbital method, we know that this is more negative than this one, right? And this is more
Yeah.
negative than this one.
Hmm.
But actually it is overall, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that is something that we need to know ourselves. And he has written that this structure is good for showing the reality, but not good for drawing mechanisms. Not good for mechanisms of reactions, right? Because then where will you draw arrows from, right?
Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you show your structure like this, then where is the electron arrow going to come from? No, it will be difficult to write mechanisms using this structure,
Right. Yeah.
even
yeah.
though it is closer to the reality. So we will mostly, in while drawing mechanisms and all, we'll be using something like this and show something like this happening, right? These
Right.
electrons can go
Yeah.
somewhere and all.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, yeah.
remember that this is not the reality, right? In
So,
reality, the electrons are delocalized,
oh,
right?
it's in reality, is it more in the ends or like,
More at the ends, because
yeah,
we saw that the two molecular orbitals that combine has one of them has a node in the middle, right?
right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In reality, it is more in the ends, but there is no one fixed end, right? Which
Yeah.
this structure
yeah.
suggests, right?
Yes, yeah.
So that is not the truth. Now, another example will be the allyl cation, right? So in this case, what you are doing is taking away the electrons also, right?
Right. Right.
So
Hmm.
the way you would get a cation, he has said, is he has drawn he has created a simple bromide. So there is a C double bond CH, and one of the H's have been replaced by a bromine atom, right? Correct.
Yeah.
So if you do a particular reaction, you can ensure that the bromine C-Br bond, which is anyway weak, can break, and Br minus can come out, right? Correct.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
Br minus comes out, you will have a situation where there is a C plus there, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
C plus there. Now it is the same exact situation, except now there are only two electrons, right, in the whole system,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there is an empty p orbital now here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct. And there are two electrons only, and total there are two electrons over this three conjugation system, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing that will be occupied is the lowermost one, right? The same structure, the same,
Yeah. Only the lower.
only the lower one will be occupied, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So electron density will be over all three, right?
Yeah.
Basically, two electrons are shared over three atoms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are shared over three atoms, and therefore there will be a positive sort of a charge on both the ends, no? Because notice that the middle coefficient is bigger, no? In the lower one, the middle lobe is bigger, and the end
Right,
lobes
right.
are smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It is something like this, right?
Yeah.
So since middle is bigger, that means more electron density here, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
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 More electron density here, so slightly less
Tens of
electrons
electrons.
here and less electrons here. So positive, positive, right? Not a
Yeah.
full positive charge, but partial positive charges here and here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Correct. So now, obviously, again, he's saying don't draw it like a, don't assume that it is this. Okay. It is not correct. This is not correct. Actually, it is charges on both the ends, right? So that is
Yeah.
the understanding that you need to have. However, for the purpose of drawing mechanisms and all, you will probably just use one of these structures and say what will happen next.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So delocalization over three atoms is a common structural feature. So now he will give you just multiple examples of delocalization. So carboxylic acids, nitro groups, amide groups, many of these groups have carboxylic acid looks like this. So when it loses an H plus, it becomes RC double bond O minus, right?
Yeah.
Now again, this minus charge will be
Minus charge,
delocalized,
yeah.
right? Over the
Yeah.
COO systems, right?
Yeah.
So finally, you will have a system like this where there is a C, there is an O, and there is an O, and the charge is like this, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Correct. So that is there. Then nitro group RNO2, where R, N, double bond O, and O, right? Now, actually, this is the same situation that you got after getting this. See, you had an RCOO minus here, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there is an extra negative electron that is hanging around here, no?
Yeah.
Mm.
Correct. And OO have the same number of
Same
electrons,
number of electrons, yeah.
but nitrogen has 5 electrons and carbon had 4 electrons, right?
Mhm.
Right.
So total electrons is still 5, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
4 plus 1 extra due to charge
One
is
extra.
5, and this is already having 5, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. So even though this is an uncharged or neutral molecule, this still shows delocalization, right? It is
Yeah.
the same situation only. Okay.
Mhm.
So again, this will be delocalized, and once it gets delocalized, one of them will have a plus, one of them will have a minus,
Yeah.
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 right? Because it is a neutral molecule, no? So it cannot be just minus, right?
Mhm.
If this one loses an electron, there will be plus here and there will be minus here, right? And
Yeah.
if this, I mean, obviously this structure. So what is happening is this electron can go here, no? Then it will become plus and this will become minus, and the opposite also can happen.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I have drawn this plus and minus right now. It's actually neutral right now, right?
Mhm.
And then think about the transfer of electrons, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it will become plus and minus, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Starting from the neutral molecule. Here you were starting from a negative charge,
Negative.
Yeah.
right? So then he's saying in that section, the problem even with the correct structure on the left, the plus minus that he has drawn, right? Okay, actually I was wrong. Plus will be on the nitrogen because nitrogen is more likely to have that plus charge than oxygen. Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
so see, he has drawn on the side, see the delocalization he has drawn properly. So there is a lone pair of electrons on the nitrogen, right?
Hmm.
Which goes to one of the ends, one of the makes a double bond with the carbon, and O will become minus and N will become plus, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And you see the side 2 diagrams, right?
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
R, C double bond O, N double bond, 2 electrons, R and R. And this is one structure, and the alternating structure is when this goes here and this comes here, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. And what you get then is RCO minus, right? And double bond N plus RR, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So these two are the possible alternate structures, right?
Yeah.
So he is not showing molecular orbital diagrams because it is going to be exactly same stuff. Okay. So then there is amide group. You can read that again. Again, it is similar stuff. He has explained it. We will come back to amide group later also. Okay, that is there. After that, it is about aromaticity and what makes benzene special. Aromaticity and the benzene stuff that we were discussing in the beginning, right?
Mhm.
So benzene is special because it seems to be extra stable as compared to other similar cyclic structures. Okay, so
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
it is extra stable. So why is this extra stability that you see? So examples of this are on page 157. So for example, an alkene, if you add a bromine to an alkene, generally you get Br2 substitutions and the double bond is gone. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In a normal alkene, if you add bromine, this is what happens. And the sp2 carbons become sp3, right? But for benzene, when you add bromine, the structure of the internal shell, right? The cycle inside,
Yeah.
is remaining intact, and what is just happening is one H is replaced with one bromine. Like no double bond was broken, and it did not become a single bond sort of a situation. You understand?
Yeah.
So he has written no addition product formed, right? Like it's not like one double bond is gone and it became BRBR, right? So that doesn't happen. So we have to understand why is it that bromines double bonds are not breaking apart, right? Or not becoming single bonds, right? As compared to normal double bonds in alkenes, right? Then he's saying you might assume that benzene's special feature is its ring structure. Maybe it is because of the ring structure, but no, that is also incorrect. To see whether this is the case, we'll look at another cyclic polyene, cyclooctatetraene, okay, with 4 double bonds in a ring, right? There are 4 double bonds in this 8 carbon ring, right? Given what we have explained about the way pi systems gain stability by allowing overlap between their p orbitals, you may be surprised to find that cyclooctatetraene, unlike benzene, is not planar. So the only way these cyclic conjugated systems or double bond systems can gain stability is if there is this p orbital overlap, right? But that only happens when the carbons are sp2, right? And when the p orbitals can properly overlap, and that can happen when they are planar, right? However, in cyclooctatetraene, the whole molecule is not planar. Okay, it takes a form of a tub sort of a shape, this shape. Okay, so
it's anti-aromatic, right?
Correct, but you need to know why. It's anti-aromatic because you're saying it has 8 electrons, pi electrons. Right? But you will understand why only if you read through the next few pages. Okay. So he explains anti-aromatic and all. Huckel's rule till there you have to reach page 161. Okay. We'll just go through it. There is a tub sort of a formation here, right? Correct. It is non-planar. So why is it non-planar? Because already the strain of being in this situation, right? The strain of being in this 8 carbon cyclic ring was already too much, and it had to adopt this tub shape. Because the angles that are necessary for being in a planar structure are far away from the ideal angles that they need to have. Okay. So 1 second, just hold on for a second.
Wait, it's actually non-aromatic. Yeah, because it's not planar.
No, it is anti-aromatic only. It has 4 and 5 electrons.
Yeah,
8
but
pi
it's
electrons.
not planar, right?
It is non-planar. Okay, wait, it will be non-aromatic. Yeah. First of all, it has to be planar only. Then we can think about aromaticity and anti-aromaticity. So this is not even planar. So he will talk about the strain factor soon. I remember seeing that somewhere. See, on the next page, he's saying, if you made a model of cyclooctatetraene, you might have tried to force it to be flat. If you manage this, you probably found that it didn't stay like this for long and it popped back into the tub shape, right? Now, why is there this strain? Because, okay, the reason was somewhere, I remember. Because of the hybridization and the ideal angles that should happen for hybridization, right? So, such a big molecule will not be able to remain in one plane because of steric factors. Now, this is because it is not planar, there is no overall p interaction and there is no chance of any aromaticity. Okay. Chemically, cyclooctatetraene behaves like an alkene, not like benzene. With bromine, for example, it will form an addition product, not a substitution product like benzene. right?
Mm-hmm.
So benzene is not special just because it is cyclic. Cyclooctatetraene is
Yeah.
also cyclic, but it does not behave like benzene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other reason why benzene is special is because if you check the heat of hydrogenations and all, right? So every time you hydrogenate or convert a double bond to a single bond by adding hydrogens, right? Some amount of energy is released because you're going from alkene to alkane, and alkanes are more stable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So on average, around 120 kilojoule per mole is released per hydrogenation. Okay. So
Yeah.
so that he has talked about here, whereas the heat of hydrogenation of cyclohexene is 120 kilojoule per mole. On hydrogenating benzene, however, only 208 kilojoule is given out, which is much lesser than the 360 that you would expect. Because in benzene there are 3 double bonds, so you would have expected 360 kilojoule of mole of worth of
Yeah.
energy to come out after hydrogenating all of them, right?
Yeah.
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 But only 208 came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So benzene has something to make it stable, which cyclotetraene does not have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. So what is it? What is that thing? So now he will talk about the fact that whenever you have 6 or 10 electrons in a ring, right?
Mm.
Then you start to see this aromatic behavior. Okay. So
Yeah.
whenever you have 4n plus 2 pi electrons, you start to see aromatic behavior in any 6-membered ring or 4-membered ring and all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the example for this, the reason for this is because as soon as you have a 6-membered ring, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you have a 6-membered ring, you will have, no, not 6-membered ring. As soon as you have, see, benzene, right? There are 6 carbon atoms and 6 p orbitals, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All of these p orbitals are at like this, the structure that we saw in the beginning, right? The psi1, psi2, psi2, psi3, psi3, and psi4, right? 6 molecular orbitals are formed,
Mm-hmm.
correct? So
Yeah.
in these 6, if you have 6 electrons, only the bottom 3 are occupied, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which means it's completely like stabilizing influence, right? There is no anti-bonding that is occupied if there are only 6,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
there are 8, then what happens is one of the psi3s will be occupied, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. One of the psi3s will be occupied, and as soon as you start occupying anti-bonding ones, then your energy is higher, right? Now,
Higher. Yeah.
correct. So
Yeah.
so he's saying we can think of the pi molecular orbitals of benzene as resulting from the combination of 6 p orbitals in a ring. And as with butadiene, each successively higher energy orbital contains one more node, right? This is what we get
Yeah.
for benzene, and this is the situation. Now, notice that the layout of energy levels in the bottom last paragraph of that page, the layout of energy levels in benzene is a regular hexagon with its apex pointing downwards. So if you think of it, there is one on top which is psi4, there is one on bottom which is psi1,
So,
and 4 in the middle, right? Psi2, psi3, and another psi2, psi3, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like a hexagon also, right?
Yeah.
So it turns out that the energy level diagram for molecular orbitals can be, for any regular cyclic arrangement of p orbitals, right, can be deduced from the appropriately sided polygon with an apex pointing downwards. So on the next page, if you see, he has drawn, this is like another trick. Okay, he's just telling you this is a nice trick to figure out the molecular orbital diagram. Okay, so
Mm.
when number of carbons is n is equal to 6, it will be a regular hexagon. When n is equal to 5, it will be a regular pentagon. Apex will point downwards, right?
Yeah.
N is equal to 4, it's a square. N is equal to 8, it's a octagon, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And there are some more points about these diagrams. The middle line in all of them is the base energy level, right?
Yeah.
Of the combining atomic p orbitals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this method predicts the energy level for the molecular orbitals of planar cyclic arrangements of identical atoms. Okay, so it has to be
Mm.
planar first of all. then it has to be cyclic and it has to have identical atoms, right? Not
Yeah.
carbon and nitrogen in that group, right?
Yeah.
There is always one single molecular orbital lower in energy than all others, right? That is the complete bonding interaction, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Then if there is an even number of atoms, n is equal to 6, n is equal to 4, there is always one anti-bonding on top, which is higher than everything else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all the other ones will come in degenerate pairs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So once you have this sort of a structure, then you will be able to predict how many electrons have to be in that system to be stable, right? Correct.
Yeah.
For n is equal to 8c, if you are only occupying the bottom 3, then 6 electrons is good for n is equal to 8 system, right?
It's system. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
System.
6 is good for also n is equal to 5 system, and n is equal to 6
Six
system,
also. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, 2 electrons will be okay for n is equal to 4
4.
system, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
2 also fits n 4n plus 2, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
N is 0.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. So benzene has 6 pi electrons, which means that all 3 bonding molecular orbitals are fully occupied, giving what we call a closed shell structure. Cyclooctatetraene's 8 electrons, on the other hand, do not fit so neatly into its orbitals, right? 6 fill up the bonding, but there are 2 left,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
2 are left, so they must go into the degenerate pair of non-bonding orbitals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If you have 2 left, you have to put them in the 2 other orbitals. Now, by Hund's rule, you cannot put both in one. You have to put 1, 1,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and those are non-bonding, right? They are at the same energy level as the p orbitals, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything that is at that same level, no,
Same
that is
level.
non-bonding. Anything above will be anti-bonding and below will be bonding,
Yeah.
right? So for cyclotetraene, there is this non-bonding pair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Planar cyclotetraene. Okay, so he's saying planar cyclooctatetraene would not have the closed shell structure that benzene has. To get one, it must either lose or gain 2 electrons, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is exactly what we have already seen. Both the dianion and the dication from cyclooctatetraene are planar.
Yeah.
If you add 2 electrons and subtract 2 electrons, it becomes planar and it allows delocalization over the whole ring.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whereas neutral one cannot do that. So therefore, it avoids this unfavorable arrangement of electrons by adopting a tub shape with localized bonds. So
Right.
since it is not gaining any stability by this process, right? By sharing electrons everywhere, therefore it avoids this altogether and takes a tub shape and has localized bonds as opposed to delocalization. Okay.
Yeah.
So more details will come later. There will be more sections on aromaticity, but for now this is enough. So what is Huckel's rule? He's saying since the single low energy orbital holds 2 electrons and then successive degenerate pairs, 4 each, right?
Hmm.
A closed shell arrangement in which all the orbitals below a certain level are filled will always contain 4n plus 2 electrons, right? All the orbitals below a certain level should be filled. So then you will always have 4 in the degenerate pairs and 2 at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So it will be 4n plus 2. So planar, fully conjugated monocyclic systems with 4n plus 2 pi electrons will have a closed shell of electrons, all in bonding orbitals and are exceptionally stable. They are called aromatic. And analogous systems with 4n pi electrons are described as anti-aromatic. If you have 8, right, for example. The next 4n plus 2 after number 6 is 10. So we might expect this aniline to be aromatic. But if a compound with 5 cis double bonds were planar, so look at aniline, the structure, the first structure that is drawn, right? Every double bond is cis in nature. By cis, we mean it's like this, right? Trans would have been like this.
Yeah.
Each double bond in aniline, for example, has to be cis, right?
Yeah.
then only you will adopt a structure like this, right?
Yeah.
It cannot be trans. So if a compound with 5 cis double bonds were planar, each internal angle would be 144 degree. Since a normal double bond has bond angles of 120, this would be far from ideal, right? Like this cis structure has 144 degree angles at the edges. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is very far away from the sp2 120 that is needed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This compound can be made, but it does not adopt a planar configuration and therefore is not aromatic even if it has 10 electrons.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, as long as it's not planar, it's not going to be aromatic, right? So even if it satisfies Huckel's rule, it has to be planar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 20 aniline has 4n electrons and is not planar and not aromatic, right? 18 aniline obeys 4n plus 2 rule and is planar and is aromatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This cis trans bonds are allowing all the bond angles to be 120, right?
Yeah.
So the situation becomes more complicated if you have multiple rings and all. We will not be worrying about that right now. Right now, we just need to know this much. And yeah, this much is fine for now. Then after this, we have chapter 8, which is acidity, basicity, and pKa. This chapter is something that you already know. Okay. So most of the stuff in chapter 8 you already know because we have done chemical equilibrium and acidity, basicity, and all. So what we will do is go through the questions in the other book for chapter 7. Make sure that you are getting those questions. And what we will also have as homework is reading chapter 8, the entire thing. Now, most of the stuff, at least till page 169, page 170 and all, right? You already know all that, acid, base, conjugate base stuff, right? What will be more interesting will be factors that affect acidity, basicity, and organic compounds acidity, basicity, right?
Yeah.
So page 172 onwards is what you need to focus on mostly.
Yeah.
Okay. So 172 to 180, 8 pages, just read up a little bit. We'll continue from this point in the next class. Chapter 8 we'll be doing, okay?
Yeah.
And just read up that acidity, basicity section because many organic reactions will be very simple to understand if you understand acidity and basicity. Okay. So that is very important. Tomorrow we'll do physics. Just let me know when you guys are free. Tomorrow, what is the schedule for you guys?
No, Wednesday. We have an exam.
Tomorrow you guys are not free, yeah?
The morning is fine, but we have an exam in the evenings.
Yeah.
You have an exam when?
Evening.
Tomorrow evening.
Yeah.
So
That is which exam? Allen or what?
Allen.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, then Wednesday then.
Yeah.
Oh wait, Wednesday.
Wednesday anytime is fine.
1 second,
This
because
time.
Wednesday I have some issues. Okay, fine. We'll do Thursday then. Thursday to Monday we'll do all days classes. Okay. We'll have to do an extra class on physics. So I want Thursday to Monday. How many days? 5 days, no? So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll try to do classes on all 5 days. Okay. So
Yeah.
there will be 2 physics classes, 2 or 3 physics classes, and 2 maths and chemistry. Okay.
Yeah.
Wednesday I can't take class. Okay. Fine. I'll see you on Thursday then. Just coordinate on the group to ensure we get a time.
Yeah.
On Thursday.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's all. Bye.
Bye, sir.